So a few days ago, I told you guys about the time I contracted H. pylori, this infection that would potentially have ended my life. And in that video, I had said that there was a lot more going on at the time. Well, what most of that involved was my first girlfriend. Now, I'm not going to tell you guys her name, but she was pretty much Satan, so we could call her that. Let me tell you guys about her. I've known her since middle school. We weren't close back then. Honestly, we weren't even friends. It wasn't until high school when we got close. I hung out with a lot of Mormons, and she was one of them, and we actually somewhat became best friends. She moved on to college my senior year because she had skipped hers, and we rarely talked. But one summer, she came back and told me that she had feelings for me. The conversation went a little like this: Barry, I like you, and since I'm back, I thought we could date. Are you sure that's not moving too fast here? We haven't seen each other in over a year. To which she replies, well, we could stay friends and probably drift apart, or we could date and grow closer. I figured whatever. I had never had a girlfriend before, and I just graduated high school, so I didn't have much to focus on. Plus, we were good friends, so I figured what the heck, and we started dating. We mostly just hung out. We never really went on dates, and I guess that's all my fault. I've never really been the dinner and movie kind of guy. I prefer going to a park and getting to know each other. But over time, she would tell me how much she hated that. Fast forward a little bit, and I have just come down with H. pylori. At this time, I had no idea what was going on with me. But I was losing weight, and my chest was killing me. But even though I wasn't feeling well, I would go out with her, buy her meals, and go on walks with her. We were walking down a trail, and all of a sudden the grass starts moving. I look down, and it's a garden snake. I love wildlife, and I really like snakes as well, but all of a sudden this crazy nutbag runs over to stomp the life out of this snake. This creature that was doing literally nothing but going about its life. This creature that I was admiring, and she wanted to kill it for no other reason than that she doesn't like animals with scales. I grabbed her and threw her back. I was furious. What kind of malevolent human being would do such a thing? But she scolded me. Me! For defending lizards and snakes. After talking to her about it for a little while, she also told me that she hated babies and children, and wouldn't care in the slightest if they were to die. Same with lizards, snakes, and a few of my friends. Now, any sane person would have listened to this and thought, well, this girl's nuts, I'm not staying with her. For some reason, though, it didn't even cross my mind. Why? I was probably an idiot. Okay, so some time passes, and I'm becoming even more ill. I was on the couch every day watching TV. I didn't even have the tolerance to get up and play games on my newly built PC, because if I moved, it hurt, and the knife in my chest would dig a little deeper. So all day, I just sat there and thought about what was on the TV. Well, as I'm doing this one day, guess who shows up? She knocks on my door, I get up, I go to hug her, and she pushes me back and walks into the house. She demands to know what I've been up to all day. I tell her that I was watching NCIS, and she flips. You don't do anything but sit there and watch TV, and every time I ask you to hang out, you always say you can't because your chest hurts or you're busy. You're always too busy for me. And being the caring person that I am, I said, okay, what would you like to do? To which she replies, you've never taken me on a proper date. I want to go out and date right now. So I got dressed, I got my keys, and we head off. Now you might be thinking, wow, Barry's a wimp. Well, normally I wouldn't take that, but I was at an all-time low. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was in pain all day, and arguing just hurt. If I had told her that, all she would have done was complain about me making her the bad guy. So we get to the restaurant of her choice, we order, we sit down, and everything was fine until the moment we sat down. She looks at me and asks, when are you going to college? When are you going to do something with your life? And this is what I listened to for the entire date. She went on and on about how I'm going to be nothing unless I go to college and get a degree and actually become something. I pay, we get back to the car, I drive her back to my house where her car's at, and halfway there, She's still talking until I say, "Shut up. Look, I'm gonna live my life the way I decide, and you will have no say in that." At that point, she cuts me off and turns the radio on. So I look forward and I drive. She then turns off the radio and looks at me, knowing something's upset, and says, "Barry, is everything okay? Please talk to me." I said nothing the whole way home. I pulled into the driveway and parked the car. I opened the door for her car and motioned her to get in. She sat down, smiled, and said, "Thanks for the date. It was nice." It was nice? That was nice. I looked back at her and said, "We're done." I closed her door and went back inside and watched TV. This time in my life was the worst time ever. It wasn't months after until I got cured, and a lot of bad things continued to happen through all of that. I talked to her about a year later, and she told me that she never realized how serious my condition was, and thought that I was faking it to get out of hanging out with her. The only moral I can pull from this is if you end up in a bad relationship and it starts to get bad, don't stay, because it doesn't get better. I have not been in a relationship since, and that's been around 3 years ago. There are a lot of crazy people out there, but you just have to find one that isn't, and if you ever do, never let them go, because the alternative will leave you wishing you'd just die of H. pylori.